what do we mean by that? When we write sentences, it has to be with the complete meaning. I mean, the one who is reading your sentence Hi, good afternoon. So for today's video, we're going to learn we are going to learn how to write sentences in a simplest way without using a lot of visuals or a lot of modules. So aaralin natin siya gamit lamang ang mga simpleng mga words. Okay, I have here SSPP, which is the SPP there is the most important component that we should use in order to write a correct sentence. Alright, let's start. Of course, with the use of my marker, my whiteboard, as well as my green eraser. Let's proceed. This is what I'm saying. So we have here SSPP, which are the most important letters that we should always remember when we wanna make sure that we can write correct sentences. So S here, guys, stands for sentence. Per definition, sentence is composed of, or a sentence is a group of words that expresses a complete thoughts or an ideas. Okay, what do I mean by that? In order, or when we say complete ideas or thoughts, it has to be with the subject, with the predicate, and to make it more complete and correct, it has to be with the correct punctuation. So what do we mean by that? When we write sentences, it has to be with the complete meaning. I mean, the one who is reading your sentence will automatically understand it if it is composed of these two parts of sentence. Now, it is very easy to identify our subject if you are already familiarized with the most common parts of speech, which is nouns. When we say nouns, those are the names of person or places, things, animals, and events. Take note of those names because we can use them as our subject. In writing names or in using names, guys, we can just either choose if we're gonna use common nouns or those nouns that begins with small letter, like when I say eraser. When I say, what type of eraser is this? Whiteboard eraser. So that's where we use the proper noun. Proper nouns, let's say park. That is common noun. If we give the name Luneta Park, so it becomes proper noun because of the Luneta there, or the name Luneta there uses big letter because it becomes our proper noun. Malito ba kayo? So there. Anyway, let us not widen the topic kasi baka malito lang kayo. So our focus for today is to basically write a correct, simple sentence. So yeah, for as long as you are familiarized with our predicate, which is the second part of our sentence. When we say predicate, our predicate is usually a verb, which is again one of the parts of speech. Verb is an action word. So this is very important because it completes our sentence. For instance, a noun cannot stand alone without the verb, without the action word. Now, so even no matter how good is your subject and verb, if you don't know how to use the proper punctuations, your sentence is still incorrect. So basically, we only have three kinds of punctuations, guys. It's very easy to remember. The first punctuations that you should always remember is the period. So when we use period if we are writing declarative and imperative sentence. We use period if we're just narrating something, if we are stating facts or opinions, if we're talking about regular habits, those things. If we are writing command sentence or request sentence, we use that period. We use question mark if we are writing an interrogative sentence. When it's a sentence asking questions. What is your name? Where do you live? When is your birthday? Those examples. And finally, for the third punctuation mark, we have the exclamation point, which is being used for exclamatory sentence. When we say exclamatory sentence, these are the sentences that expresses strong feelings and emotions. What are kinds of emotions? Happy, sad, scared, surprised. So those things. whenever we think of those types of sentences, let us not forget the use of punctuation. It's very easy to write sentences if you know what are the components that you should use to write them. Now that we already identify the things that we should use when we write sentences, let's see if we already understand it. So I am going to write an example here, an example of sentence, and let's see if you guys can identify the parts. Okay, so one moment. Okay, our first example here is my mother prepares our meals. Okay, we say before, or we say earlier, that our subject is noun, so think that mother is the subject because we are talking about mother. And then this is our subject. If you're gonna ask the complete subject, it will become my mother. And then verb or predicate is our verb, prepares. Complete verb is prepares our meals. And then we use the proper punctuations, which is a period, right? So we have the subject, check, the S, the P, and the other P. So over here, we do have the correct sentence. However, not only that, guys, check if the verb or if the subject verb agreement applies here. What do I mean by that? As a golden rule in grammar, if the subject is singular, the verb must be in singular form. Vice versa, if the subject is plural, the verb must be in plural form. So over here, guys, our subject is one, which is singular. By the way, in English, we only have, if we're talking about numbers, we only have two numbers, the singular and the plural. So since, as a golden rule earlier that we say, the verb agrees, subject agrees with the verb. If your subject is singular, the verb must be in singular form as well. And singular form ends with S. We call it S form of the verb. Alright? So there. So we're not just gonna focus on using subject, verb, predicate, or punctuation. We also need to identify the agreement of subject and verb applies. Now, for our next example, one moment. Next example. So, our teachers teach us our lesson. So there. Let us identify our subject again. So teachers is our subject. Complete subject should be our teachers. And verb is teach. Complete verb is teach us our lesson. Notice the number of the verbs. Our subject here is plural, teachers. Because with S here, we do not use S here. Teach. So P here, P there also. So there also. That's it. Okay. Now let us check if we have a correct sentence here. We do have the subject, we do have the predicate, and we also have the punctuations. Our teachers teach us our lesson. So see, very easy to identify. This is for the beginner, guys. I suggest that if you want to learn something, don't read much information because it will just bring you confusion. It will just give you confusion. Basically, the basic on how to write sentences. Now, don't forget the four kinds of sentences again. We have the the declarative, imperative, and that's for the period. We have the interrogative when we ask questions, and finally we have the exclamatory statement, which is the one that expresses strong feelings and emotions.